But I would say the most important part of this interview that I thought had the most value was in the second hour, or it may have been the start of the third hour, where Trump talks about RFK as well as Big Pharma. This is very important.
Love this Make America Healthy Again idea, because there are chemicals and ingredients in our food that are illegal in other countries because they've been shown to be toxic. There's pesticides and herbicides, and there's a lot of shit that's been sprayed on our food that really is unnecessary. And there's a lot of health consequences that people are suffering from a lot of these things. And
I brought this chart for you.
Beautiful.
Because I had a feeling you'd be asking me.
Thank you.
Look at this chart. These are healthier countries. Look where the United States is. I'm going to send this to RFK Jr. Look
so
at that.
This is, well, something along the, I was actually talking to RFK today, and he told me that more than 70% of young men are ineligible for the military because of their health.
Do you know how disturbing that number is? And listen, I'm not the person who's saying we need a draft or that people should be serving in the military. I do believe that service to your country is essential, but there's a lot of ways to do it that doesn't involve being in, the armed forces. We could have a Peace Corps, for example, which we do not have. But this would be an example of just basic physical testing to get through basic training, and 70% of men, I'm guessing here, between the ages of 18 to 25, probably something in that range, are incapable of performing the basic tasks in order to become a soldier because their health is so bad. That's a serious problem. And I think we all know that a significant portion of our food is meant to poison us, literally and figuratively.
Could see it.
That's crazy.
A lot of it's obesity.
So here's the life expectancy versus health expenditure.
Same chart.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
USA.
Wow,
yeah.
That's pretty good.
Jamie's the best.
He's very good.
He's the best.
But no, but look at that. Look where the USA is.
It's not good. And that's our food. That's our diet. That's sedentary lifestyle. That's our diet. That's the chemicals we ingest. That's what that is.
But RFK is going to be very, I think he's a great guy.
I love the fact that you guys teamed up.
Yeah.
And are you completely committed to have him a part of your administration?
Oh, I am. But the only thing I want to be a little careful about with him is the environmental. Because, he doesn't like oil. I love oil and gas. I think,
just keep him out of that.
To fire. So I'm going to sort of keep him out of a little. I said, focus on health. Focus. Yeah. You can do whatever you want. But I got to be a little bit careful with the liquid gold,
I understand. But listen, there's plenty of good work that could be done if you focus on health.
So, of course, Trump has to stick his foot in his mouth because that's what he does. I love the oil. It's really great. I love the drilling. Drill, baby, drill. We're going to do it on day one. No, it's because that's where the money is, and that's all you're concerned about. You see, RFK at least has some semblance of a heart and realizes that, yeah, we can't do this forever. It's not going to work. We are destroying and pillaging the shit out of our planet. We must find alternative resources. And this, of course, is why, as I've mentioned earlier in this discussion, why I'm a huge advocate for nuclear power. It is the quickest way for us to get off of fossil fuels, and obviously much more sustainable than solar and wind are capable of being. But Trump, nope. Let's drill. Now, one would say, "Oh, that's terrible. We should support Kamala." They are drilling at an insanely higher rate than Trump was during his first term. And I'm sorry, but Kamala is a complete puppet and is just going to do what she's told. That's why I've been saying President Blinken for the longest time. And I'll keep saying it, although she'll probably have her own band of misfits to come in and take over if she ends up winning. But this is a big issue. I know it's a little bit off topic as it relates to what we're talking about right now, but there is no question whatsoever. It does seem, from my perspective, that Trump does respect RFK, because I think he has a nostalgia for the Kennedys, and I think that that's very important to him. Kennedy, he was, I believe Trump was 17 when JFK was assassinated, and then he was 22 when Bobby was assassinated. So I can imagine that it had quite an impact on him. And remember, Donald was a Democrat for a very long time. Amelia, I don't know if I agree with that Trump will simply kick RFK to the side if and when he wins the election. Uh, I I mean, listen, it's better than anything we're getting from the Democratic side right now. And I do think that this particular issue regarding our soil, regarding the quality of our food, I do think that this is a huge issue. Um, to me, it's a big what if. We don't know for sure how it's going to go down. Um, and I do agree that you do need, like anything, Henry, there must be a considerable amount of protection and regulation when it comes to the execution of these power plants. But Rogan did discuss this at length, basically addressing the fact that, especially in parts of Europe, you have these much smaller, especially in places like Germany and France, where the nuclear reactors are significantly smaller and they replenish the waste. And so that, to me, without question, is where the future lies in terms of energy extraction, my opinion.
Here's the one that my all-time favorite, though.
What is that?
See the arrow right here? That's one I left.
Do you have anyone that is pressuring you to not work with him? Have there been people that are reaching RFK Jr.?
Yes.
Yes, I would imagine. Because financially, he could put a dent.
I would say that, and, I think in many ways they've done a good job. In many ways they've done a bad job. But I would say that the big pharma,
no one else is going to make that statement except for him. And of course, he prefaced it with, listen, I think they do some good work. They also do some bad work. Big pharma. Yeah, Donald. Why don't you tell the truth and say, big pharma and private insurance, they spend more money on lobbying on Capitol Hill than anybody else. And that is what they do. And the reason they do it is because they have bought and paid for both sides of the aisle. We're one of only 2 major countries in the world. I don't even consider New Zealand a major country, but we're one of only 2 developed countries in the world that actually has pharma ads on television. And then, of course, you have your, I always say sponsored by Pfizer. That's a great point, Keith. Imagine what no pharma ad money would mean for mainstream media. Well, they'd be in a hell of a lot of trouble. That's for sure. And that ultimately will be a component that is a decision for a lot of people when it comes to voting. They just get a kick out of him. And in some cases, it's like, well, we're fucked anyway, so I guess we might as well go with him. And Kat, you are 1,000% correct. And like most instances, Amelia, that is what ends up happening. Now, do I think it's possible it could be different this time, depending on who Trump surrounds himself with? Sure. I wouldn't hold my breath. We're going down by the head, and I don't think anybody's looking to put the brakes on. So, either way, the spiral will continue. But with all the neocons leaving the GOP and being fully embraced by the Democrats, it'll be interesting to see what a second go around will be like if he does win. We'll continue.
Wasn't thrilled when they heard that, I have a relationship. I've actually always gotten along very well with him. I've known him a long time. He's a different kind of a guy. He's very smart, great guy. And he's very sincere about this. I mean, he really is, he thinks we spend a fortune on pesticides and all this stuff, and then you end up with, that chart is a terrible chart, the one previous. It's such a bad chart when you look at where we are compared to other countries that don't spend 10 cents.
Right.
So, and you save a lot of money. But, yeah, I've had some people that aren't exactly thrilled. You can imagine, right?
Sure.
It's a good question, actually.
Well, certainly if
it doesn't affect me.
Some pharmaceutical drugs that have been prescribed that have negative consequences that these people have been profiting off of. And then you have a guy like RFK Jr. who spends an enormous amount of time highlighting those things. You could say how they've been very reluctant to have you support him.
I would say that's an understatement. Yes.
Yeah. So what do you do to stop that
Well,
from getting in the
listen,
way?
Well, look, they've come up with some amazing things. I mean, I don't know how you feel. I know you're against the certain vaccines, but like the polio vaccine, people had polio. It was like a disaster. And they came up, Dr. Salk, and he came up with a vaccine, and there's no polio. Now, very interesting, there hasn't been polio, but now in the Gaza Strip, can you believe that? Have you heard that? There's been a big strain of polio coming out in the Gaza Strip.
Is it
And why is that, Donald? By the way, I thought it was interesting how he slipped in that it doesn't affect me, as if to suggest that they don't own me. They're totally not going to be in. I'm not in their back pocket. It's not happening. But the fact that he is bringing up, he is addressing on the most popular podcast in the world. Can you believe that there's polio that's come back? It's come back in the Gaza Strip. Why do you think that is? It's because Israel is committing a genocide against the Palestinian people, and they are dealing with mass famine and disease. That's what happens. That's why something like polio has come back. That is why hundreds of thousands of people are going to die over time as the result of the famine and all of the negative effects that come from entrenched warfare and bombing. You know? Think about, we're going to be talking about this with Norman Solomon this upcoming Thursday regarding Agent Orange and what that did to Vietnam and how people still forget that that affected millions of people. Well, think about what's happening right now to the Palestinian people. It's not just the bombs. It's just one part of the equation. He lets these little things slip every once in a while, and this is why they have to shut him up, because he'll say the things that you cannot talk about. Can you believe that polio is coming? Can you believe what's happening to the can't talk negatively about Israel. Can't do that. Crossing the line. We'll continue.
Vaccine-derived polio? Because, you know, there's a strain of polio that comes directly from the vaccine. Because unfortunately, sometimes when you vaccinate people for polio, you actually give them polio.
I haven't heard that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, all I can do is I sit down and I listen to him, and I'll give it a total. I would love him to be right, because if he's right, it's a lot less expensive, generally speaking.
There's two things that people point to when they point to the dangers of the pharmaceutical drug industry. One thing is when pharmaceutical drugs were allowed to advertise on television. We're only one of 2 countries in the world that allow pharmaceutical drugs to advertise on TV. Mm-hmm. The other one's New Zealand, but they're more restrictive than we are. People are worried.
Those ads, when you hear, like, you know, take a certain drug,
and then you hear all
and
the
then
consequences.
You say it causes cancer and baldness. We don't like baldness.
Suicidal
and
ideation.
this and that and eyesight, and you can lose your vision.
Yeah.
And you know, I actually asked one of these guys, I would never take. I mean, because there's things that are so bad. They go through a whole list. I guess they save some liability, but man, I said, does that affect the purchase? And they say it really does. When there's something you have and you read, and then they go through the list of
side effects,
the potential side. It's not even the potential side effects.
Right.
I mean, a lot of people are just. I asked that question. People hear that. When I hear it, I'm going to take a pass. It says, may affect your vision, may cause blindness, may this.
Yes.
But
well, I know you're aware of Callie and Casey means, right?
Yes.
Well, one of the things that they pointed out, and this is a very important thing for people to understand, is what a lot of these drugs do is they act to somehow or another mitigate the effects of poor metabolic health. But most of these problems that these people are suffering from wouldn't exist if we put an emphasis on metabolic health. If people got healthier, they started eating nutritious food and taking vitamins, a whole host of these problems that people are having would go away. And the problem with that from the pharmaceutical drug standpoint is they wouldn't be able to sell drugs to these people. And this is a fear that a lot of people have.
And the pesticides and things like that on the plants. And what do you think of that?
It's terrible. Well, I think regenerative agriculture, unfortunately, is very difficult to scale to a point where you got a jack-in-the-box on every corner.
Right, that's right.
If everybody wants food, and we have food deserts, and we have places like Los Angeles where no one's growing anything, and everything has to be shipped in, it's very difficult to feed that many people. We've created.
That is an excellent point by Rogan. And of course, we have a huge problem with overdevelopment in this country, specifically as it relates to, I'm in commercial real estate, as I've mentioned. A lot of the very blue counties in this country are very urban dwellings. They are nothing like other parts of the world. If you guys haven't seen what it looks like in Singapore, for example, and how green the city is, it's sort of awe-inspiring in a lot of ways. I mean, obviously, I'm using a different type of an example uh, as it relates to what a green city can really look like. But that is a great point about LA, especially with the lack of public transportation as well. Uh, we are dealing with a problem that, on the one hand, Trump is identifying exactly what it is, and he isn't masquerading in any capacity outside of what it really is. It is pure and simple. Big pharma and private insurance have completely decimated our health in this country. And that as it relates also to agriculture. You know, it's the irony of Trump doing his stunt at McDonald's. McDonald's is as bad as any food that you could put in your body, and they get subsidized. And while we've certainly fallen from grace in a lot of ways for, who should be leading the country, you really hit the nail on the head. This is a scam. The entire system is one giant scam. They don't need to exist. And you know what? I wouldn't give two shits if there was pharma drugs being peddled on TV with all of their regulations regarding the side effects, as long as we had a single payer healthcare system. They should have no effect whatsoever on our ability to live healthy, productive lives. Now, of course, it's easier said than done because it actually costs more money to be unhealthy than it does to be healthy in terms of your eating choices. And that is another issue. Again, it's all interconnected. It's a huge, huge problem.
This incredible society where we have these enormous cities, but it's very difficult to get food to these people. And then for a lot of these people in low income areas, the only food that's available is cheap, unhealthy food.
That's right.
And we could fix that. That's if we could send $175 billion to Ukraine, we could do something to fix a lot of the health problems that the United States has. And I think it would help us as a nation overall. If you just put it out there that, hey, as a nation, we're going to make a concerted effort to get people healthier. Just put it out there, and people start making better choices.
Well, when you look at that chart,
it's crazy.
They just gave me that chart because they said you may want to discuss this topic, which I know is a big topic for you.
And he's right. It is a big topic. It's a big topic for me. It's a big topic for a lot of people. I don't like the fact that Trump is the one person talking about this. And of course, he's probably only talking about it because RFK, as I'm sure their internal numbers have been showing them, is having a considerable impact on this election, even though that's being ignored by a lot of people. I don't think people truly understand that there has been an impact, a true impact in Trump's favor from both RFK and Tulsi. I do think that they've had an impact. How big, I can't say. But I do think there is something to be said for how the two of them have been able to get out on the road and host multiple town halls, even rallies without Trump. And the hundreds, if not thousands, are showing up. That's something. Kamala doesn't have anybody that can do that. And she doesn't, while Trump is in Austin doing this interview yesterday, Kamala's in Houston doing a big rally. But why was it big? Because Beyonce was the featured attraction. You see, that's the thing that the Dems do. They use their Hollywood connections within the movie and just the entertainment industry overall, but mostly movies and music, where they get these major celebrities to come out there and perform. That's a bait and switch as far as I'm concerned. Not a lot of people go out to rallies to see Kamala. People go to rallies to see Trump.